Welcome to the Success Revenue Podcast, the only podcast in the Middle East that brings you leaders in customer success, account management, sales, and go to market to share ideas, perspectives, and valuable learnings on how to successfully drive revenue, delight customers, and take it to the next level.
We are your host. I'm Haidar Saad, the CEO of RevSetter, the modern customer management platform. And with me, I have my amazing co-host, Ivy Ferrero, CS executive, advisor, and speaker. And we're excited to bring you a long list of amazing guests on this season of the Success Revenue Podcast. Today, we have an international top voice joining us for a great conversation. We will cover many different things, including how she approaches coming into organizations as an external voice advisor and coach to help them improve their post-sales functions. We'll also talk about the rise and importance of AI within customer success and beyond, speaking about tactical and more strategic ways of thinking about and leveraging AI. And last but not least, we'll also speak about how women in leadership and executive positions can advance and what they should think about as they're making the transition from management into the executive boardroom and some of the advice for that. So we're going to cover a lot of great things today, Ivy, with today's guest. She's a top voice in the field. She's someone that has a lot of experience and a long list of followers. So very excited for the conversation. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I've been following her for like 2 years, so I'm so excited to be here with her.
Amazing. And how are things on your end, Ivy? It's starting to get really hot in Dubai. I'm like walking outside, it's kind of like, okay, now summer is coming very quickly.
Yes, this week has been super hot. Yeah, it's been good. I mean, this will be my second summer here. Are you guys going to be traveling with the family to Sweden?
Yes, well, as soon as the kids' school is done, they're done with school, then we'll head out. We'll see. We'll be in Europe. We'll probably be in the US. I have some work in a few different places, so there'll be a summer of travel, and we'll be back again at the end of August when the kids' school starts. So I feel that's a lot of people seem to do that. So kind of the day the school ends, and then when it starts again, they'll be somewhere else to avoid the heat. But I might be flying back into the region during the summer for some meetings and
Hmm.
events and stuff like that. But generally, I'll somewhere else most of the summertime.
Okay.
How about you?
No,
Are you staying local?
yeah, I'll definitely, yeah, I'll stay here, but I think there's a week that I'm gonna go to Cape Town. I've never been to Cape
Oh,
Town. Have you
nice.
been?
Actually, no, that's one of the places I haven't been to that I would love to go to. I've heard many wonderful things. And there's also a lot of South Africans in Dubai and in the UAE.
So
So I
many.
was here about kind of how beautiful it is.
Yeah, so many. Actually, my ex-husband is South African, so that's why
Oh, okay.
I would,
So you got
yeah,
connection there.
yeah, his family there. But yeah, I'm looking forward
Nice.
to at least get outside of the heat for a little bit. It seems that this is
Yeah.
how people survive Dubai, and it's always so
Yeah,
important to go connect with nature and then plug back into Dubai. So
exactly. I think that makes sense. And it's funny. I was asking someone actually the other day. Actually, two people. I asked someone that lives here in Dubai and works here, been here a very long time, and then I asked someone who was in Riyadh last time as well. Who was in Saudi. Kind of how the summers are in terms of like the work piece. And it seems like most people are actually do work pretty normal. Outside of a week here or there for Eid and stuff like that. People will be working throughout the summer, so that's actually a nice change of pace back in the day when I was working in Europe, especially in the Nordics, but mostly Europe. Kind of July, everyone's is off. Like you can hardly get any work done in July, early August. It's kind of closed down. Which then in the US, obviously, you don't have that. In the US, there's outside of Christmas and New Year's, everyone else working the rest of the year. But it's going to be a good change of pace here, being in the region where actual work is still being done during the summer,
yeah,
versus you have to kind of wait 6, 7 weeks for anything to kind of progress. Like back in Europe when I was working there a lot.
yeah, yeah,
I look forward to that piece.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. All right.
keep things moving.
What do you feel? Should we bring Anika in?
Yes, let's do it. I'm excited about the conversation. There are a bunch of questions to ask her. So, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, amazing. Here we go.
Everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Success Revenue Podcast. We're so excited to bring on today's guest, an international top voice in customer success and beyond. Annika is joining us from London, and we're super excited because Annika brings a ton of experience, not just as a executive and a customer success influencer, advisor, and many other things. But she brings extensive experience from throughout her career working at companies like Griffin, Insided, and Carbon, and VP, heads of customer success, and similar roles, as well as today being the founder and CEO of her. The Customer Success Pro Consultancy, where she's working with and helping a lot of different organizations scale up their work, focusing on revenue growth and customer success. So, Annika, we're so excited to have you on. You bring so much international and global experience to the table here, which I know our audience are super excited to hear about and learn from. So, welcome to the show, Annika.
Welcome.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited and honored to be here with you guys today and excited to have this conversation. Thanks for that lovely intro.
Amazing, amazing, awesome. So Annika, well, let's do this. We have a lot of different things. I know I have a bunch of stuff we'd love to hear your thoughts on and discuss with you. But why don't we maybe just talk about your background for those that don't know you? Kind of tell us about your backstory, kind of where you've been, where you came up to today in terms of what you're doing, career wise. Let's start there, and then we'll jump into some stuff.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. So, as you already mentioned, my name is Anika Zubair. I consider myself a post sales revenue leader. That's the title I like to give myself, although I've held a number of different titles before. But yeah, I've spent my last 13 years in B2B SaaS. I actually started my career in sales. So, I was an SDR and then an account manager. And then in the last 11 years, 11 going on 12 actually now 12 years in customer success. So I started as a customer success manager before it was deemed cool or normal, I would say. And then spent the last 10 years working in high growth B2B SaaS businesses as a customer success leader, like you said, VP, head of, number of different titles and roles, but always been at VC backed B2B companies. And just in this last few years, I've started to branch out and work in my own consultancy and coaching business where I'm able to help enable individuals, but also teams really feel comfortable with revenue growth within their role, specifically in the post sales role, because a lot of post sales people and leaders just don't get the revenue enablement or coaching or training on how to really own a revenue number. So that is where I find myself currently. As you already mentioned, I am in London in the UK, but my accent throws everyone off. I was born and raised in California. The accent's never going to go. I've spent the last 14 years in Europe, but it's I like to say I'm British now with an American accent. So
Oh, yeah.
that's where it comes from.
I love that. Love that. Whereabouts in California, by the way? As you know, I spent the
I'm
last
just
10 years
south
there.
of LA for
Very good.
anyone who is familiar with, California. I'm from Orange County, for those
Yeah.
that do know, California demographics. So I'm from the better half, which I know most South people think Northern California is the cool, but I no,
SoCal all the way.
it's
Yeah.
not that good.
Yeah. As someone that's spent, a few years in the Bay Area and then, 8, 9 plus years in LA and SoCal, I can attest to that as well. Southern California is the place to
Everyone
be.
just thinks it's cool because the Bay Area has all the tech, and I'm like, "But that's all it
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, exactly. It's almost SoCal. I'm with you there, all the way,
Yeah.
all the way. Amazing, and that's so great. Again, like we talked about earlier, you have so much experience from so many different fields, companies, and things like that. So it's going to be really interesting to hear some of your different thoughts there. Can you maybe tell us a little bit more also about your current consultancy, right? Kind of what type of companies you typically work with, what types of projects do you typically have? Obviously, focus on the revenue growth side, post sales, but tell us a little more about that and what you're doing today with your company.
Yeah, sure. Well, it started at fractional leadership, but to be honest, right now I work primarily with companies and individual people that are looking for coaching and enablement for their teams, essentially. So, funny enough, yesterday I was just in central London working with a team, the sales and the customer success team, on helping them build like proper handover, but also helping them really under qualify leads and qualify CSQLs, as it's called as well. So, really helping companies and individual team members feel ownership over the revenue number. Does that mean in a pre-sales manner? So I do work with some sales leaders as well, but mostly it's in a post-sales manner. So anything from upsells, renewals, and making sure you're qualifying leads, quite doing the right discovery. Because I think the customer success role is evolving quite a lot. And in 2025, every company is no longer like growth at all costs; it's profit at all costs. And customer success is a big part of that profit margin. And CS teams need to be enabled, trained, and help get the success towards doing that. And I do feel there's a big gap in the market at the moment. When you speak to any sales leader or any salesperson, there is so much training, there's methodologies that are out there for salespeople to follow to really be able to be great at their role. And I really did see a gap in the market when it came to customer success enablement. Heck, people don't even say that. That's not even known that people think that they need to enable their CS teams. So because of that gap and because I come from a sales background, I realized like I should bottle up my tactics, playbooks, methodology that I know, and help share that with different teams and individuals. And like I said, I work with individuals as well, so I have a coaching program that's directly designed just for customer success managers or post sales leaders that are looking to step up in the revenue era. So that's a little bit about my business and what I do.
Wow, amazing, Anika. And I wanted to ask you to piggyback on this. I've also have seen how different the mindset can be between operating and advising. It's one thing to do the work and another to teach it. Was there any sort of like shift in how you approach challenges when you moved into your advisory work?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing is you have to enable teams to do the work when you are advising, and it's a lot harder. Funny enough, people think like being an operator is really tricky, which again, I've been an operator for over a decade now, and it is hard. Like you're doing so much of the hard work and the grind and the grit of working every day. But when you move into consultancy or advisory and you're working with leaders of the business, I think it's actually trickier because you're an outsider and you have to have a high level of influence of change with that organization. And change is hard, whether you're an operator in the business or you're an outsider. And to get people to buy in on things and actually see the change, because I think that that's something that doesn't naturally happen. And you have to be there to reinforce it time and time again. Because as humans, we naturally want to go back to the ways of working that we're used to. And when you bring in an advisor or a consultant, the toughest mindset shift I have to do is I'm like, I have to not only just show them this and show them my framework or my playbook, I have to get them using it like
Yeah.
day in and day out. And I always say this as a coach, I'm very practical and tactical. So if by the end of this session, if you're not doing something that I'm talking about, I'm not doing my job right. And so I think when you move into advisory or consultancy, you have to be quite tactical. And I think some people think it's very strategy and playbooks and all these beautiful fluffy things, but if you're not in it with the team that you're helping grow, it's not gonna result in much.
That completely makes sense. And as a follow up, when you talk about change, that's so
Yeah.
important. I wanted to ask you if there's any sort of like a grace period that you give yourself for a company to actually see change. Because, like, sometimes I think a lot of companies believe that CS, you add water to it and it like it spontaneously grows, but you have to give it time. So, when you work with clients, do you like to sign up for like a 6 month contract, or like how do you do that? Because if you sign them up for a month, that's probably not gonna see enough impact. So how do you go about that?
I mean, every company has different projects. I definitely have companies that work like, oh, we want to work with you for 1 month of each quarter, for example. Like everyone is quite different, I would say. When I was doing the fractional stuff, I always said that there would be a minimum of a 3 month contract. I don't do so much fractional leadership anymore, but with the coaching and enablement, I say the best way to work with me is that your team gets time with me at least once a quarter so that we can refresh what we did last quarter and then focus again on what we're doing now and moving forward. I with the individuals that I work with at these businesses, because sometimes these companies actually sign their individual either leaders or contributors up to do coaching with me, and I always say once a month at minimum. And so my thing with consistency with any company, and when I was doing fractional work, I actually would only do a minimum contract term. And then also with uh, mapping things out for the CEO or the C-suite, I would actually map out 18 months of a customer success journey, because I always ask the founders or the leaders that I'm working with is like, how long is your actual contract? Because that's how long you actually need to be working with a CS leader at minimum to see success. Because if your customer contracts are monthly, then of course you're going to start to see churn, renewals, upsells happen at a quicker turnaround. But in most SaaS businesses, it's 1 year contract terms, or if not multi-year, depending on if you're truly enterprise. But if you're expecting your CS leader to make leaps and bounds in the first 3 months, yes, of course there will be wins. I'm not saying that, but the bigger long-term wins don't happen until you have a full 1 year renewal cycle with your customers.
Mm, mm. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Amazing.
It's a great point, right? Because like you both said, CS doesn't happen overnight. I think sometimes leaders out there, founders, etc., a lot of them come maybe from a sales background, and from a sales background, you're a lot of times used to a quick turnaround in terms of impact, right? Because the quotas are shorter, the timelines are shorter. But in CS, what you do today, you'll see in 6 months' time, typically, right? Like it has that lagging effect, and a lot of things you're measuring is lagging indicators anyway. So it takes time as you're building up those leading indicators with the organization. So, those are great points to bring up. And let me ask you this as well. 'Cause I'm kind of curious. So you have background, right, as an operator, in terms of as a leadership and operator before that as well, and then you have experience as a consultant, fractionally, an advisor, as a coach. You have so many different perspectives that you've gathered along the way. I'm curious, kind of, what are some of the biggest learnings that you've had going through that journey and approaching the discipline, approaching customer success and kind of post sales from so many different perspectives, from the outside, inside, and beyond? What are some of the main learnings you've had doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main learning I have is that we have a like ongoing funnel, if I can say, with customer success, sales, marketing, product. It's just one long life cycle, and I think sometimes we really cut it off into silos where we're like, okay, the marketing or the rev ops or the sales team are working on this part of the journey, and then CS does this, and then product does this over here, or whatever it is. And I think the biggest learning I've had is that when you're able to actually draw one line or one thread or whatever you want to call it through that entire journey and know that it is like circular, I think that's what really unlocks revenue, value, growth for your company, because a lot of times people don't see all the efforts that you're doing in, let's say, the top of the funnel or generating new leads and closing those leads. It's the same thing happening 6 months in of a customer using your product or service. And it is, again, very, very circular of all the work that's being done. But I think my biggest learning or takeaway is that we tend to forget that. Like once a customer is closed one, we forget pipelines, we forget lead generation, we forget the marketing, we forget the discovery, we forget a lot of the things that we worked so hard. By the way, acquisition is so hard, especially now more than ever. We worked so freaking hard to do all of this work. And I'm not saying CS teams aren't working hard, but we're almost trying to recreate the wheel when the wheel is already there, and it's a flywheel between the whole go-to market motion. And I consider product and CS and professional services and support part of that go to market motion. But I think my biggest learning is that there's this like almost wall, a
Mhm.
partition
Yeah.
that's happening between all the work marketing, sales, rev ops, pre sales consultants are doing, and all the work that the back of house or CS is doing to keep that flywheel going. And I think if there's more understanding of that, it'll be so much easier for companies to grow, really.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And let me, as a follow-up to that, let me ask you kind of two-part question, right? Because on one part, I can see that being, or I definitely see that being a huge challenge that organizations face, that kind of collaboration aspect of things. So, but my first part of the question is, how, as someone coming in as a coach, advisor, how do you bridge that gap between these different teams and leaders coming in, working with post sales, but understanding the importance of that team or those teams working with the entire go-to-market function. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you approach it? And then my other kind of connected to that question is someone that comes in, and obviously you a lot of times you bring someone from the outside is because you want to level up or improve something or take it kind of from where it is to something better. What are some of the outside of that other mistakes that you see organizations do that you can often spot quickly and help correct, which has a big impact? And I think that those things are probably connected. So asking it that way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, we all work in our silos, by the way. It's natural. Like, it's just our comfort zones. And we're like, no, I work in product. That's what I know. Or I work in marketing and that's what I know. And I'm not saying any company I've been at has had it perfectly figured out. And even as an advisor, when I come in, I'm always like, oh, there's so much work to be done when it comes to cross functional work. The one thing I say personally to the teams I work with, whether it's CS, sales, doesn't matter the department, is that we're all here to do two things actually. And I say this kind of like harshly, and I think that some people feel it like, oh, that's not right. But we're actually here for two reasons. One is to help our customers make money, and two, to help our business make money. And that's what we're here for. Like, it's very, very simple. And I don't care if you're an engineer or you're a marketeer or you're a DevOps person. If you are working and getting paid for that work, those are the two like big reasons we are here, because we're not building a product to just have a good time, which maybe in the VC days where money was really cheap, it's like, oh, we're here to have a good time. But it's not the case in 2025. And like, if you are working and you are being paid for that work, there's two reasons. You're building a product service, delivering a product service that's hopefully helping your customer's company make more money. And like, and then in turn, because they made money using your product and service, you're making money. So like, I think I keep it very like straightforward and to the point. And I think a lot of people don't hear it that way. We get so caught up in, well, I'm here to unlock faster cross border payments. And I'm like, no, no one really cares about that. They care about making more money for their business. Yeah, sure. Maybe cross border payments is the method or the vehicle
Because
of how
yeah,
that's going to happen. But if you keep it really, really simple, like I woke up today. Yes, I love what I do, but I need to get paid to do what I do, right? And the companies and customers you work with, they have the same thought process too. So I try to tell all the teams this, like whether I'm speaking to product managers or anyone else, I'm like, hey, we are here to help our customers make money. And in turn, we will make money. But until we make them money, it won't make us money, kind of thing. And so I try to keep it simple, and that kind of thinking and mindset shift usually helps level set that that's what we're here to do together collectively.
I love that, Anika. I love that you call it how it is. So you don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah,
You're
it's
like,
it's it's maybe a little harsh to a lot of people. They're like, "No, but, like, we're here to do this and this," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess, but if you wanna really just keep it super straightforward, you're here to make some money, that's why you're working,
yeah,
and your customers bought your product to hopefully make some money in some way, shape, or form."
yes,
Like, I mean, it might come out in different forms, Ivy, right? It might
yeah,
be like they're trying to operationalize something, they're trying to be more efficient with team whatever. But at the end of the day, every company, and I'm speaking for B2B SaaS businesses, every company is trying to be profitable in some way, shape, or form. So,
yeah, yeah. And you know, Anika, I've worked for companies that did not really realize, and they went out of business because
mm,
they didn't. I feel like at times, it's also hard for leaders to say we're here. We need to make money as a company. And a lot of those companies actually do fail. So I love that you are calling it how it is, because at the end of the day, if the company is not profitable, guess what? Everybody's going to lose their jobs. Um,
exactly. But this is what executive teams talk about when everyone's like, oh, when you're all in a room and the CPO and the CMO and the CRO are all there, like, yes, we're talking about new product releases. Yes, we're talking about marketing campaigns. But why are we talking about all that? Because we're trying to make money as a business. So
yeah,
it's not like, I think a lot of times when you're growing up in your career, you think, oh no, I'm here to help customers, or I'm here to provide a service, or I'm here to build this great product for my customer. yeah, you are, but you work for a business and that business is trying to be profitable.
Yeah, that's it. And Annika, with all the experience that you have in global markets, what are some of the trends you see in large markets like in America that you think could translate to like a growth market like the Middle East?
That's a very good question. I do think that not everything translates across borders. If I'm honest, there's so many cultural nuances of doing businesses in different regions. And I know that even I lived in Germany and now I live in the UK. The way Germans do business and the way the Brits do business are very different than the way Americans do, for sure. I think the big thing that I would say with bigger markets is they're a little bit more ambitious, if I can use that word. They're just definitely like, let's just go get it. Let's get it done. I think that that mindset is something that's like global domination. I don't know how to really describe it, but I think sometimes when you come from a smaller region or a smaller country, it's like, oh, let's just stick to what we know or our region or our language. But sometimes it's harder to do the bigger picture outlook. And I think when you're in bigger markets like the US, they're always thinking global rather than just regional. So I think that if I could say anything, working in EMEA for the last 14 years, it's always a regional mindset first rather than a global mindset first. And I think the US tends to think big first and then they regionalize second, I guess.
That's a good, yeah. And you know, Anika, you made me think. I just listened to a podcast of the Diary of the CEO. I forgot who was the person that was being interviewed, but they spoke about this. Oh yeah, it was the CEO of Snapchat, and they
Mm.
were basically talking about how when you're from Europe and you're about to start a business, you think, okay, we're going to take over this region, and then you move on to like a smaller town or like a smaller country, and then you think like that, versus a lot of companies in the US, just like what you say, they try to go for something that is already big, like what's the next best thing that they can go after the US.
Yeah.
So that completely makes sense. And Anika, as someone that has built a career in leadership as a woman, what's a piece of advice you give women about navigating executive rooms that you wish someone had told you early on in your career?
I love that question. Thanks for asking, Ivy. I think it's something that's probably not discussed as often. But as a woman, you will probably be the only woman a lot. Like that's my biggest tip. And I think I wish I would have known it sooner because I felt uncomfortable earlier in my leadership, my first leadership career. And it was a whole bunch of stereotypically white men in the room with myself. And I never felt at the very beginning, I was like, ooh, do I belong here? Am I the right person for this job? And I'd have to say that if you can just kind of understand that the stereotype is changing. I have seen it change in the last 10 years. There are definitely more women in the boardroom. There are more women. For example, my very first board were only men. There were only men on that board. And now, like, you know, in the last board that I was reporting into, there was a mix of both men and women, which is lovely to see. So it is changing. But I think if I can give advice to women who are, you know, moving into executive leadership, it'll probably be lonelier than you expect it to be when it comes to being one of the either solo or few women that are in executive roles. And my other tip is to find allies, not necessarily in the business that you're in, but finding allies outside of that. So I'm really grateful that I have a wide-reaching, powerful network of other CS executive leaders that are women, and sometimes I can text them and tell them, "Hey, this is happening, like, you know, have you experienced this or is this something you've experienced too?" But I think sometimes as a woman it's hard to bring those types of feelings up to your male colleagues. Not that I don't think they're all receptive, but sometimes you just feel like, oh, is it right to bring it up? And that's my tip is, I guess, be prepared to be the only women sometimes and also have other female executive leadership friends, if I may call them that, then it'll help. It'll help you feel more comfortable in the role. So those are my tips. Otherwise, you can do the whole job, by the way. You're a woman, you're going to crush it because we're
Yes.
killer at multitasking, and that's exactly what an executive does all day.
We're the best. Women are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ader. We're
No disagreements here. I have, my wife, I have two daughters, I have a son as well. But yeah, I'm all for empowering women in the workspace. And one thing that I do actually really appreciate in terms of like executive leadership and women in executive leadership is think in the customer success field in particular, I see a lot of executive female leaders out there. I see a lot of groups that are focused on empowering and supporting executive leaders and women in leadership that we see. And some of the best voices globally within our field are female leaders. So I think customer success, we've done a good job of empowering women and obviously women have taken that mantle and that role within the discipline. So I think that's something that's really cool to see. So yeah, no arguments from me on that front. Otherwise, my daughters would disagree wholeheartedly if I said anything else. So yeah, definitely with you guys on that. But I think that's a really cool thing in customer success and in particular leading the way on that front. Um, Amazing, amazing. So, one thing I wanted to ask you about as well, which these days we kind of have to ask everyone about because it's everywhere, and that's AI. And in particular, when we think about AI, it's kind of obviously everyone knows how quickly it moves, right? If we just go back a year and a half, 2 years from the first release of ChatGPT and everything that's happened since then, in terms of kind of giving access to everyone out there in the world. Uh, it's kind of going from a nice to have in organizations to a must have for those sitting on boards or in those rooms, right, in the executive leadership rooms. It's not anymore how can we leverage AI in different ways. It's we have to leverage AI, we have to scale with AI. We have to think about it. And just last week we saw Microsoft laying off 8,600 people. There's about 6-8% of their workforce. We're seeing other big companies. Some take it to the extreme. Some are doing it kind of more balanced way. But really looking at how to leverage AI to scale. So not just scaling through headcount or more resources and people, but scaling through AI. So as you come into these organizations and customer success and post sales is not an exception, maybe one of the fields that AI can have the most impact at this stage. Where do you see kind of how do you advise leaders in terms of how to think about adopting AI for themselves, for their teams and their organizations? How do they go about it? What type of things should they think about? How do they make it again a must-have versus a nice-to-have within their organizations?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking, I'm like, an hour doesn't go by where I'm not using ChatGPT. Like, quite literally, I don't know, like, it's
Yeah,
always open.
that's
So,
right there.
if you're not using it for every part, like, I don't know if it's a fear thing, but I'm a naturally curious person. So even when it first came out, I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" Like, and again, working in the tech, like the tech
Right.
era that we find ourselves in, I'm like, "Ooh, new tool. Let's play with this. What is this?" I think a lot of people are scared by it because of, "Oh, it knows so much," or it can predict things that it shouldn't be predicting or whatever. But I find it really funny that people are so nervous about it. And I
Mhm.
get it from an ethical standpoint. I do understand the boundaries of privacy and making sure you're using AI like correctly and ethically, etc. But I think the power behind it, I mean, we're all such busy people, like the amount of work and heavy lifting it can do for you in a day to day. Like I tell everyone I work with, I'm like, if you're not using it at least once a day, like what are you doing? And then secondly, if you're not using it every hour, again, what are you not doing? And I think a lot of people see it like, oh, we need to roll AI into our product. We need to roll AI into our roadmap. But you can start, and I say this to a lot of leaders I work with, you can start as small as rolling it out like individually, either with your teams, with um, with the calls you're having, with the follow-ups you're doing. The easiest way I say is like we all have meeting recorders. I mean, I'm in most meetings and there's like more meeting recorders than there are humans these days. And if you're not using the insights from that meeting recording to do something with it, that's like my easiest start. Like, I personally use Fathom. I know Gong does this as well. But when you go in after the call, you can literally, it's like ask Fathom. And I think Gong has something similar where it's like, what was the sentiment of this call? Or what were the 3 action points off of this call? Or draft me an email because the customer is no, and also, even if you do a follow-up and the customer doesn't respond to that email, go back to that call and ask AI saying, "They didn't respond. I need a stronger follow-up to make sure that they action the items from this call." And so there's certain things that it can do based on, again, information you're feeding it, and I do think that we're not unlocking that level of daily use of AI. But I think also in CS, like you said earlier, we're very lagging indicators rather than leading. And it's like, why don't you take a lot of the data that you already have, your renewals, your upsells, your what you had for all of 2024, and have it build a forecast model for you. Like, just try it. I think a lot of people are scared to even think of trying it. I'm no prompt engineer, but I sit there and I keep asking it questions. And also, I'm super lazy. I talk to it. I would rather talk than type. And so I'm just saying to most people these days, if you're not using it in some capacity, I'm sorry, like, but like Microsoft just did, you're probably gonna be impacted if you're not using it, if you're not trying to figure out a way to build AI into your own work stream. And so I think jobs will be impacted, but I think the people that use it and empower themselves with AI are the people that are going to be the next generation of tech leaders and enthusiasts and employees.
Yeah. No, that's a great kind of breakdown of how you can use it just from the small scale and then build up from there. And it's funny, I was talking to someone just the other day, and we are talking about that specific point that you started with, Annika, which is around being scared of sharing the information, like, oh, it knows a little bit too much about me. And again, and again, I'm biased as someone that's running a agentic AI company within the space. Like, I love all things AI, and I've everything out there I use, I try myself because I want to understand it. But I gave him the example. I was like, well, just go to go to Google and type in my activity Google, and then log into that with your Gmail, and you'll see every location you've been to the last since you started using Google Maps. You'll see everything that you've done. If you haven't turned off those settings, and Google says, like, Google has all of your information. They know exactly everything you've done for the last 20 years of your life, and
Yeah,
Apple has
but
the
even
same
your
thing.
iPhone, like, all the
Apple
information
has the
is being
same thing.
collected.
Yeah, I was like, everything is already collected about you and kind of in the secret back room over there. Here, you just know they're collecting it and they're using it to create something productive for you, at least, instead of just giving you ads and these different things that all the other information is used for. So I think it's just data and it's always been used and collected. But I think people, when it's in front of them, they get more scared of it when they understand that it's happening. But the possibilities are really endless when it comes to AI, and especially now with agentic AI and AI agents and different things that they can do and scale things. That I think that will be the next
Yeah, for
revolution of
sure.
it.
There's so much, like, voice AI with, like, support calls, like, training, like, support to not just do,
Yeah,
like, automatic bots. There's now so much AI around if your customer calls, they'll get a support agent that's an AI agent, and that's
right.
that's super helpful. Again, some customers like phone calls, but they don't wanna deal with a bot. But if you can train it and get it to a point where it's voice AI now, like, again, it's not anything scary, it's the information you are feeding it
Right.
about your
Yeah.
customers, and then it's answering questions that a human
Yes.
would, but
Yes.
it's saving you time, and maybe you get to do an impactful call rather than a Q&A call, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And on that point, like, how do you think those things, like the AI agents and agentic, the kind of next revolution here and next stage of AI, how do you think that will impact the makeup of a customer success or post-sales team in terms of scaling headcount versus getting to AI, amplifying the individual? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a lot of digital motions of customer success will use more AI. Obviously, naturally, like when you have companies that have hundreds, if not tens of thousands of customers or hundreds of thousands of customers, they are going to need some that they right now they don't have much, if I'm honest. They do have
Yeah.
some stuff, but they're not really personalizing an onboarding or a renewal process to a customer. So I think AI will be heavily used in that sense. And again, there will still be a human overseeing all of this. I don't see the human going away in any of it. It's just now the follow-up emails, the onboarding process, the like milestones that they're going to check in with customers. This will be done through some sort of AI agent, but there is still someone who's managing all of that, because what I think the evolution of customer success will be is we've always been told we are trusted advisors. And I believe that we are business consultants. That's what our actual core of our job is. But because of the stretch that we've had to challenge our CS people to do, meaning get on an onboarding call, do the support ticket, make sure you're on the renewal and build the QBR deck and all this stuff, it's pulling people to do everything. And there's no way, like you cannot do it all. And I think AI will just help streamline all the busy work, if you want to call it, for a CS professional. And then what you'll actually be able to do is have time to think strategically about how to take your customer to the next step. Because we're always just on the back foot because we're so busy. We're like, oh, let's just do what the customer wants us to do because I have 15 calls today and I don't have a break between any of the calls. And so it's like you don't actually get breathing room to think, oh, how can I provide value? How can I drive impact with my customer? You're just jumping from call to call. And I think AI will take that burden and that load off, whether you're, again, enterprise high touch or even digital. But what it'll allow humans to do is actually think strategically and be those business consultants that I think we were always meant to be.
And Annika, I'm obsessed with practical tools, whether it's for renewals, for any risk accounts, or customer health. I wanted to ask you, what is one model you always come back to, no matter the client or no matter the company that you're advising?
You mean like a methodology or a process
A
I follow?
framework, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I always believe in two things, no matter the model, is a customer journey map and mapping that out from both your perspective, so what you want the customer to do, but what they actually do as well. Because I think customer journey maps is very idealistic of like, oh, in 30 days you'll do this, and in 60, and then in 180. But then what is the customer actually doing? So I like to do a customer journey based on customer actions, and then a customer journey based on, again, what we perceive is the best journey possible. And I think no matter, again, what type of business you are, you need to know milestones because you need to help guide your customers to the next step of their journey. And then the other thing that I think, whether you're digital CS enterprise, is a customer success plan and building a proper customer success plan, and not something that lives on a slide that you use once and that's it. I've seen that happen, the death of a success plan, but I think that a success plan needs to be used on every call. Every single time you talk to your customer, you should be bringing up a success plan, because at the end of the day, a success plan is their guide to that customer journey that you are building so hard and working so hard on. So those are like the two playbooks or steps that I think that whether you're building customer success from scratch or you're a major global enterprise business that has hundreds and thousands of customers, you should be following at least the basic customer journey guide and then having some sort of success plan for your customers based on that guide as well.
Yeah,
So
I
those are my
love
two
that.
things.
Yeah, great advice. I love that.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a core thing. Like I said, it's just applicable to so every business. Understanding that journey from both perspectives, understanding the success planning and how to actually implement it continuously versus on a one-off basis, is a huge value add for the individual rep, but also for the customer, of course, on the other end of it. Amazing. So we actually ran through our conversation and I got to cover so many different things, Annika. And one of the things that we love to do at the end of our conversations here is we'll do like a little kind of lightning round with our guests. We'll ask a few
Yay.
quick questions and answers, some simple ones for you, but then we'd love to get your little take on. So if you're ready for it, we'll wrap up with the lightning round. If you're
Sure.
ready,
Let's do
yeah,
it. I love
amazing.
this. Let me I do this to my guests on my podcast, so
Oh,
I'm
there we go.
excited for this to be on me.
Amazing, amazing. Again, we keep it very simple for our guests, so
Yep.
it's gonna be too crazy of a question or questions coming up here. All right, but we'll get started. So we'll start you off easy. The first question is, What's your favorite kind of content to consume right now? Book, podcast, whatever it might be. Favorite type of content right now?
Is LinkedIn an answer?
Yeah, you can definitely give that an answer. There's a lot
I
of
spend
content
way
on
too
there.
much time on that, and I as much as I create on it, I do consume a lot
Yes.
on there,
Yeah.
and I do feel like it gives me the most relevant. Podcasts are great too, trust me, I have a podcast, we're on a podcast, I love
Yeah.
podcasts, but, podcasts I only listen for, like, longer things like drives or
Right.
working out, but every day I'm scrolling LinkedIn and consuming content, so I'm gonna say LinkedIn, I don't know if that's the answer you were looking for.
No, that's a great answer. I think that's probably one of the most consumed things right now, anyone in
Yeah.
business. So you're definitely not alone there. Awesome. All right. So next one, maybe that's from LinkedIn as well. Let's see. But any favorite people to follow or take inspiration from right now that you want to highlight, and executives or any thought leaders out there?
So many. Oh my gosh. Who do
Yes.
I even start with? Carly Agar for career tips. She does so much for the CS career sector. Rachel Provan does a lot on CS leadership. Christy Feltruso, like she's a household name at this point. I don't even know if I should mention her. Everyone knows Christy. Stino, also amazing leader in Amsterdam. There's just so many amazing people on LinkedIn that I see them on my and I'm sorry if I miss names now, but I there's just so many people that I consume content from daily.
Amazing. Yep, yep. You definitely mentioned a lot of the household names there that I think a lot of people and customer success in particular see and follow as well. Awesome. Great recommendations. And then next one for you here. What kind of any favorite new idea or thought or something you heard recently that kind of really caught your attention and you're interested in? Can be big or small.
I've heard 2 things, if I can share 2 little fun
Yeah, yeah.
facts because I was in a
Good.
conference. One is that in 2005, there was an average of 6 buyers for a SaaS product, like 6 stakeholders that you had to interact with. In 2025, that number has gone up to 13. So there is now
Amazing.
13 an average of 13 stakeholders
Yeah, it's
within a
crazy.
business, whether they're on an in like a demo call or not, there are 13 influencers that are making decisions of buying SaaS products or not, which is just wild to me.
Yes,
That's a
it is
crazy
crazy.
fact.
Yes.
And, the other fun fact is that I learned that it takes you hearing something 7 times before it registers. And I think that that's a real interesting psychology thing. So even if you're, like, telling your customer that they're getting value in this way, just telling them 1 time, they're probably not gonna register
Right.
until you say it about 7 times. So those are, like, my 2 recent fun facts that I've learned.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I mean, combine those two. If you have 13 people that need to hear seven
Yeah.
times, that's 91 times that you need to get that message across
Quick
today.
math, I think I couldn't do that math, but,
Yeah,
like, could you imagine? You have to do 91 demo calls.
yeah, like just get the value across. It's
Yeah.
double what it was before. So that's crazy. Those are great things. Amazing,
That's
awesome. And I
hilarious.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. You have your favorite
Okay.
question coming up.
So this is my favorite question to ask everybody, Anika.
Okay.
What is one life philosophy you like to live by?
That's a really good question. I'm gonna say kindness is free. That's my biggest thing. I think in the world and the tough times that we are going through right now and every day, I'm always just reminded that you never really know what someone's going through and kindness is free. Like literally being nice to someone is absolutely free. It doesn't take any more energy. Actually, it takes more energy to be hateful to someone than to be kind to someone. So I guess the life philosophy is just like be kind.
I love that. I love that. And Anika, on the weekends, how do you spend your time to decompress from your week?
I'm a big yoga fan. I love actually like I'm into yoga a lot recently. So yoga and also walking the dog. I like going out in nature and walking with my dog. I think those are the two things that really force me to not be we live in a very connected, very digital world where we're in front of a million screens. There's like 3 screens looking at me right now here. And so I do like yoga. It lets me truly disconnect, and then again, walking the dog, I'm out, and I feel like it gives me a sense of peace and separation from all the tech world that we live in every day.
Yes, absolutely. And Anika, for anybody that is listening that wants to connect with you, what is the best way of connecting with you?
Yeah, of course. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's Annika Zubair, or my website is the customersuccesspro.com, and you can find all my socials and everything on there.
Wonderful. Anika, it has been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I've been following you for like 2 years, so having you here, it's like meeting an idol. So it has
I feel like I've been watching all the podcast episodes and all the shares. I'm like, this is honor for me.
nice.
Thank you so much for joining, Annika. It's been, like I said, a pleasure, and we look forward to more conversations in the future. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We want to thank our sponsors for supporting the Success Revenue podcast. RevSetter is the #1 customer success and management platform in the Middle East region, offering global capabilities mixed with regional solutions that helps your CS, account management, and go-to-market teams 10x efficiency, improve customer experience, and turbocharge customer retention rates.
And thank you to Medlify, a leading marketplace. Workers and employers in the healthcare space needs and demands meet to create benefits for both sides. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.